decide you want to write a book, but how do you actually do that? You can tell yourself you're going to write a book, but that does not mean you have any idea as to where to start. So that is what this video will be about. As somebody who started multiple stories and is very near to completing some of them, I am going to walk you through my step-by-step process of coming up with a story, characters, world, and outline. Today, we're going to start with the characters. Sup peoples, and welcome back to another video. Now, the first thing that I do when I'm coming up with a character is choose their name. Usually a name gives me a distinct image of a character, and from there I can move on to the appearance. You can use Pic Crew to help you with this if you're not an artist. I've been doing that recently, but you don't have to. And for this, since I don't have my computer with me, I'm just going to come up with a name and an appearance. Just off the, just do it. You know, just do it now. Randomly. Very important character for my story, just name, no biggie. Oh, and while I come up with the name and the appearance, I just have sort of like visuals swimming around in my noggin, you know, like, oh, wouldn't that scene be cool? Or what if this thing happened? I'm very much like a vibes-based writer. So this may not be the method that works for you. But I've just found that if you have an idea and that's why you want to write a book, this helps because it's sort of like how to take your idea and turn it into a story. You know, you already have the idea, but this is how you flesh it all out into something that you can write. For this example of this video, I'm actually going to be using a Dragon Prince fanfic because I don't want to spoil one of my actual characters. But this fanfic, I can spoil it. You know, it's okay. It's not as big a deal. And one of the characters, major spoilers, is Janai and Amaya's son, and he's going to become one of our villains. And that is who I'm designing today. I'm designing a hero who turns to the dark side. You know, good old Anakin Skywalker-esque fall arc. I'm gonna go with Cassian. I feel like Cass is a cute nickname for a kid. Okay, and then appearance-wise, so I moved down, I have a character sheet that I wrote out. It's horrible, but I will also put it in the description so that you don't have to read my illegible handwriting. What do I want him to look like? That is the next thing, because all of these things I feel like just, they add together to create the vibe of your character. Cassian, so I feel like he's got like dark brown hair, blue eyes. I swear he's not a self-insert, guys. He's really not. I don't want to live the life he's gonna live. It doesn't have to be detailed. My character descriptions rarely are. I'm just going to write it's short, dark brown hair. I feel like it'll get longer as he gets older, but for now it's short. And that's just pretty basic, you know? He's small and not athletic. He's a bookish kid. His hair often falls in his eyes. It's just a little detail. Just makes you think, oh, he must be shy. He is. And then for aesthetic, I'm just gonna write common Sunfire attire. It's vague, but you know, I'm just gonna put him in an outfit from where he's from. You know, I don't think he really thinks too much about his appearance. He just wears what his parents give him. That's the basics, okay, right? We now have an image of a character and we have a name to refer to them by. Once I have their name, their physical description, their aesthetic description, I'll sort of fill in little details. You know, like if I go down my character sheet, which again will be in the description, I write their role in the story, put in their gender and their pronouns, age. Again, it doesn't have to be too specific. Honestly, for some characters, you could just be like middle-age-ish. Then we can get on to the important stuff. I break my characters' personalities, which is why you're probably here. You know, the real meat of a character is their personality. And I break that up into 4 distinct sections. Their greatest strengths, their greatest weaknesses, their character arc, and their personality traits. First, let's think about their strengths and their weaknesses. These are the things that are going to help and hinder them. So for this guy, he's smart and inventive. He's sneaky, which just seems cute when you're a little kid running around a castle, but it isn't cute when you're an adult and you're evil. I feel like I don't want him to have a great connection with magic. I feel like that's all he wants. He wants to be a mage. Magic is actually really hard for him. So I'm gonna put in greatest weaknesses, not naturally gifted at magic. I sort of like the idea of a character who, despite not being good at something naturally, just keeps pushing anyway and like makes themselves be good at it. But sort of, I feel like a lot of times we see that in heroes. You know, a character who sort of like Callum from the Dragon Prince, who is not innately connected to magic the way that other mages are, but refuses to give up. And that makes us root for him. Like, your greatest strengths are what your character can bring to the table, and their greatest weaknesses are the things that are going to hold them back and that are going to make us root for them. There's sort of two categories in it. So give them weaknesses that they have to fight against that will make us root for them, whether they're a hero or a villain. Like for this character, I like the idea that you're watching him struggle to become a mage but never give up, and you're like, yeah, and then when he finally does become a mage, he uses it for evil, and you're like, why was I rooting for you that whole time, man? Of course, he's not a full villain. Like, he's like, I do bad things, but he's maybe regrets those bad things later. He's a complicated character, but he has a fall arc. Really, what you are trying to bring to your character is complexity. You want them to feel like a person. I have cool things about me. I have greatest strengths, but I have a ton of weaknesses. Like the fact that I'm filming this video the day it's supposed to go out is probably a weakness. When you're thinking about greatest strengths, don't make them overpowered. Give them sort of like niche things. Like things that will only really come into play in certain circumstances. That's what I try to do, at least. Because I feel like often protagonists are just given the good at everything label, and nobody really likes that. They're just like, oh, you're great. That's your greatest strength. Cool. But if you give them little things, or counterbalance them with weaknesses, like this character is smart and inventive, but the one thing that he spends all of his time researching and knows the most about is magic, and that's the thing that he's bad at. So it's like, no matter how smart he is, he's still missing something. Maybe in a way, his smarts are holding him back because he could technically tell you how to do magic. He's being held back by this innate not knowing. Like he can't connect to it emotionally or with his soul or whatever you need to do to cast magic. So in flaws, he's technical, not intuitive. He's insecure and feels a need to prove himself. He's not very open. So like he's insecure about the fact that he can't do magic because he's not intuitive. But if you just went and told people that, it would solve our problem, because they'd be like, we do not care if you do magic or not, we love you for who you are. So instead he just internalizes that and doesn't tell anybody. He's smart and inventive and creative in a very technical way. He's not the kind of person who would make abstract art. He's the kind of person who would be like, oh yes, I was trained to paint very realistic faces, and I know how to do that now. I actually try to give my characters more weaknesses than strengths, because I feel like weaknesses are sort of double-edged strengths, or double-edged swords, you know, like technical, not intuitive. That still makes him technical. Insecure and feels a need to prove himself. Yes, he's insecure, but that also makes him very determined. He doesn't give up. So I feel like I personally lean more towards extra weaknesses than extra strengths, because if you give your character a bunch of weaknesses that are sort of double-edged, so it's like a weakness but a strength hidden inside of it, it's about shedding the weakness and just having the strength. So getting rid of insecure and just being determined and driven. So now that we have some base understanding of strengths, weaknesses, I'm obviously not filling this out perfectly because I don't want to bore you with that. But now that we have some base strengths and weaknesses, we can move on to the next step. Now, like I said, the things about strengths and weaknesses are sort of what make him compelling. They're what make him interesting and well-rounded, but they're not necessarily the things that make him unique. I'm sure there are a ton of characters out there who wish they were mages but cannot be, you know? That seems pretty common. So next we need to think about personality traits. This is the category that I put all of my characters' quirks in. Things that don't really affect the story, but make them feel like people. So their personality traits, for example, might be little things, like the fact that a character loves horror movies but always gets scared and always forgets. Or like the fact that when they're nervous they brush their hair behind their ear. Or maybe the fact that whenever they see a black and white checked anything, they feel a need to buy it even though they don't wear them. Are these all me? Yes, except for the horror movie one. I actually remember that I get scared and I can no longer tuck my hair behind my ear, but otherwise it was a dead giveaway. Whenever I was like sort of nervous, I'd just be like, it was weird. Anyway, personality traits. So these are just the little quirks that make your character a person. You know, if the greatest strengths and greatest weaknesses are what make them a good character, this is what makes them a good person. Not necessarily like a good person, but just like a person in general. So let's say that this guy, he needs time to recharge after social gatherings. He enjoys solitude in like a I like to go and listen to the birds way, not in like a leave me alone, I hate everyone way. That's why it's a quirk and not a flaw. He almost always has a book with him. Just little things like that, you know, just like little quirks. Like whether they like coffee or tea. Coffee is clearly superior, just an FYI. Next we have the really important bit, and this is the character arc. And it is important because it is tied to your character's internal conflict. So this guy is going to have a fall arc, as I mentioned. Now that we know what type of character arc your character will be having, we need to lay out the beats. If you don't know what type of character arc your character is going to be having, I suggest the video I will link up in whichever corner they go in. It is about, I think, 7 different kinds of character arc, and I sort of laid them all out step by step. I think I actually used Dragon Prince as some examples for those. Now I have sort of like base character stuff, right? Now I move to the side, the other side, where I have my character arc all laid out. And that is the lie, the confrontation, the backslide, the next confrontation, the next backslide, accepting the lie, the fall, and tragic end. Now, I will lay this out and sort of go beat by beat as an example, but if you're not doing a fall arc, it's not these exact steps. So, like I said, video up in the cards about other types of character arc. So what is my character's internal conflict? By this point, you should have a bit of a feel based on their greatest weaknesses, you know, for what their internal conflict is. My guy feels like he's not good enough. He just wants to feel accepted. He feels apart. Even though his family are very accepting of him, he is still a symbol of new times. At the point that my story is taking place, the humans and elves are sort of just becoming allies, officially. Like, the wars are over, but now they're in this time of peace, and they're sort of getting used to all being buddies. He feels that. You know, he is a human prince in an elf kingdom. And even though one of his moms is a human, both of his siblings are elves, and they have innate fire powers. And he feels like, I am not one of you. Even if he's inventing it, he feels like people look at him weird when he goes to like royal meetings and stuff. All of this doesn't make him automatically villainy, but he gets taken advantage of by a villain. So the lie is that he doesn't fit in. So once you have this lie, all character arcs have a lie, pretty much. You need to decide what you're going to do with it. Is it going to be something they grow past, like in a positive character arc, or is it going to consume them in a negative character arc? My guy's going to get consumed because I like drama. So now we lay it out beat by beat. A character arc is broken up into sort of little bits. So you have the lie that they believe at the beginning of the story. And then if it's a growth arc, it will end with them getting rid of the lie. And if it's a corruption arc, it will end with them accepting the lie as truth. So every confrontation, which is what it's called when the truth, you are loved by your family and you do fit in, is met with the lie, I don't fit in and no one loves me. Okay? Those are our opposing forces. So every confrontation is when those two things meet. And it's like, we love you. And he's like, no, you don't. Emo vibes. And then the backslide is when he chooses the lie. And this just keeps happening throughout the story until eventually, if it's a growth arc, he's like, no, actually, you do love me. And he chooses the truth. And in a corruption arc, in this case, he chooses the lie. There's a final confrontation, and he's like, no, I am alone forever. And the truth leaves because he has done something, probably to get rid of it. So, confrontation 1. This is when the truth and the lie are met. Trying to learn fire magic, but he can't. His parents are like, okay, well, if you want, we can send you to your uncle. He's a mage, and he's a human, and maybe he could help you. And they're trying to be supportive. But I feel like the backslide is that he sees this as, you're trying to send me away because I'm not good enough. That's a lie. That's him choosing the lie. Now, like, in between all of this, there's other stuff going on, you know? So, like, he decides they're trying to send him away and goes to hide in the secret areas of the castle. And that is where he meets Kareem. So then confrontation 2 is when Kiddo goes to learn magic from his uncle Callum, who is a human mage. He's like, oh, this is really cool, but he cannot connect to the fire arcanum still. I think that this is because different arcanums have different like things you have to do and understandings they have to reach to connect to them, and I just don't think that this kid is meant for the fire arcanum. I'm sure there's an arcanum out there that he could connect to, but he's really stubbornly like, I need to do the one that my family does, and he's not being true to himself. He probably would connect much better with some other arcanum. This is when Callum's daughter is also interested in being a mage, but she has a different problem. The two of them are going to become friends. She has a different problem as to why she can't do magic. When she was little, she used dark magic, and that is really bad for you. It's horrible. It is not good. Callum has since then been scared to teach her magic because he just spent the last like 7 years of his life fighting a dark mage, and he's like, no, I'm not teaching you magic if that's what you're instinctively going to do. But what that actually does is just she's now not able to learn magic from her dad, so she has to learn the one kind of magic her dad would never teach her, which is dark magic. It's a fun double-edged sword. So I feel like dark magic is technical. You do not need to learn some intuitive understanding in your heart. You just need ingredients in a book. So that's what this kid would be good at, right? So I feel like they meet and she's like, oh, how's lessons going? I wish I was in magic school. And Cassian here is like, oh, it's awful actually. I can't do it. She's like, you know, I could show you a different kind of magic. And they become friends. Now you're probably wondering, how is this a confrontation of when the truth meets the lie? Well, he goes there because he's like, I don't fit in, but maybe Callum can help me. And it doesn't help. Now he's starting to learn dark magic because it's interesting to him. And then I feel like Kareem weasels his way into the situation again. And he's like, maybe that's your destiny as a human, you know? Maybe you can't connect to an arcanum, but you could be a mage. So like to fit in with your family, you could learn all these dark magic fire spells, you know, that sort of thing. What is the backslide? This all seems very positive, like in a negative, a manipulative way, but it seems like he's being like, oh, I will fit in. Well, the backslide is that Kareem uses Cassian and his dark magic to free himself and escape, discarding the kid in the process. So he's like, yeah, you should totally learn this stuff, it'll help you fit in. And then as soon as he's out, he's like, yeah, no, I never liked you, I was just using you. And that is obviously going to confirm, like, I will be alone forever, I don't fit in, no one likes me. Now the next one is accepting the lie. So Cassian betrays Kareem, but it's too late. He like tries to take it back, right? He tries to take it back. He's like, oh no, I've been used. He turns against Kareem. He's like, no, I take it back. I don't want your help, actually. You can stay in your cell, and I'm gonna leave. But it's too late. All of the things are already in motion. All these things that he started for Kareem, all of this stuff, it's too late. It's in motion. And someone gets hurt because of his actions. Cassian decides it's better if he's alone. Then we have the fall and the tragic end. So that's sort of all tied in together. Hopefully that helped you to understand the character creation process a little bit. So just an overview. You start with at least I start with a name and an appearance, because that will give you a gist, a vibe for your character. Then you fill in the little stuff, like their role in the story, their gender, their pronouns, their sexuality, their age, etc. Physical description, aesthetic description, and all of that. Basically this whole front top section of the character arc will be done. Their strengths and their weaknesses are what make them a compelling character. Their personality traits are what make them a person, a compelling person. And then their arc, again linked in the cards for more options, plays out. You sort of have like their lie and then the different beats. Obviously there's more stuff. It's not just going to be like these two main moments. There's going to be a ton of stuff, but it's like this stuff that takes place that leads them to where they end up. And all together that makes a character. Hopefully I can edit this from 40 minutes into something coherent and cohesive. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this helped you out, and I will have 2 more videos coming out, one on world building and one on plotting over the next 2 weeks. By the end of all of this, hopefully you have taken your idea and turned it into a book. Let me know what your characters are. I love hearing about characters. I love hearing about plots and stories. Honestly, when you leave me long detailed comments about like all the stuff going on in your stories, it's so exciting to me. And also tell me if any of you ever finish your books and publish them, because I would love to read them. So I will see you on the next page next week with that next video. Till then.